When the heroine was offered to become his daughter, she should not have agreed. She was replacing the Duke's daughter Veronica, who had died of swine flu. What was the point of climbing the steps of society, receiving love and envy at the same time? To be crowned as the first empress, if all this is only on paper, nothing in this world is what she could call her own. A bloodied girl with a ball in her back was pitifully cringing. She knew they had planned this from the very beginning. The man explained that there was no need to be so outraged. He had merely extended his hand to her. A different girl entered the room, who said that for some time she had to play the role of a dead child. The heroine looked at the girl in amazement. She did not understand how she could still be alive. This was Lady Veronica, and if the heroine died, she had to take her place. She will also take the love of His Majesty and the child who appeared to them. The girl in the coat and red dress laughed. She found it amusing that the girl was crying. In addition, the woman with white hair brought a gift, which turned out to be the heroine's child. The infant cried loudly, and the malicious woman said that she would wait until the infant said its first word, Mama. She explained that she would soon have a child with His Majesty, and then, after some time, our heroine could meet her child in heaven. Everything she heard was very upsetting to her. Tears streamed down the girl's face. The Duke said that they needed to hurry up, and the girl noted that due to these entertainments, she too had not noticed how time had passed. The woman admitted that the heroine had worked well, but now it was time to say goodbye. It was hard to believe, but the heroine eventually returned to her past, to her coming of age. She was 18 again, and she was young. At first she could not believe it, as if it were some terrible dream. The girl sat down on the bed. This whole dream was so vivid. She buried her face in the pillow and did not understand why she had returned 5 years ago. She had never been so helpless before, and Ian was not there then. He must not have been born yet. So the girl had the opportunity to create her own future, and she ran out into the garden. Her father, who did not understand how she could cancel her birthday, approached her. The girl explained that she doesn't want anything bigger, which is why she doesn't want to celebrate her birthday. He said that then she could miss a great opportunity. Her father was acquainted with the governor of the capital. Nevertheless, due to the failure of his grandfather's business, he lost all his money and had to move to the outskirts of the city. Currently, he has become a true nobleman with a large salary under the leadership of Viscount Claude. The Viscount proposed to cover the necessary expenses for her debut upon coming of age. The father gently put his hand on her shoulder and informed her that it was for her own good, since she was still young and therefore did not understand. He tried to assure her that her debut would change the perception of men, but the heroine understood that it no longer mattered. She would not agree so easily a second time. She inquired of her father what he had said could happen after her coming out in society. The heroine knew that her father was powerless to stop anything because it was a pre-planned trap. Her father merely assumed that the Viscount might be doing his utmost to help her, just as he himself was. Elena thought that Vicomte Claude was not just someone. Perhaps he was not alone. Perhaps there was some other girl with him who was plotting all these conspiracies. The logic of actions, or simply human psychology, and one of the princely family was Lilia Brick. The heroine simply had to see the thorns on this rose. She taught her to be like the queen of the whole world. But in reality, she did not understand whose side Leah was on now. She asked to be lowered down in order to finally help the heroine. Veronica was still alive, but she did not know why she had arrived. She should not have died unhappy if they had treated her as before. Elena firmly decided that such a thing would never happen to her again. In the evening of that day, a delicious dinner was waiting for her on the table. Everything was very tasty. The heroine joyfully devoured all this food. Father suggested that if Elena was so worried about her birthday, they could make a written agreement. But the girl wiped her mouth and replied that such a document could not be valid. Her father did not understand where she got her stubbornness from, and at that moment her mother approached him and told him not to attack their daughter. She urged him to be more patient. Even if Elena had an unsuccessful debut, she would still find a good husband. Besides, Elena was still relatively a child, so there was no need to rush so much. A little later, Mom said that when she was washing Elena's clothes, all her things were smeared with dirt, and in some places she was even torn. The girl blushed, but she had to admit that she had simply gone to Mount Low. Mom was worried. She didn't understand if her daughter had any self-preservation instinct at all, since cases of animal attacks on people had become more frequent lately. Elena promised that in any case, this would not happen again and she no longer needed to go there. She thanked her parents for dinner and headed to her room. The girl took out a book and began to read it carefully. After that, she began to fidget with her own papers and finally finished drawing something very important for her. Perhaps it all looked rather sloppy, but this map turned out to be much more accurate than any bought at the market. Brick would never have guessed about this route, about the girls, promised that she would always take care of her parents. In the past, when she ran away, she didn't think about them at all. But the girl never thought that her parents would kill. The next morning, the girl woke up at dawn. Since she returned, she always woke up early. She hurried to the kitchen to her mother and offered her some help. The kitchen smelled pleasantly of fresh aromas as well as baked goods. The heroine pondered that in the past she had had such a carefree life. It had been such a precious time. The family at dinner noticed that it was quite noisy today, and the father suggested that a cart was passing by. In the next moment, there was a knock at the door, and father jumped up to go see who it was. He was pushed aside and huge suitcases were carried straight into their house. They said that Vicomte sent gifts from the bottom of his heart. The young man also handed the heroine's father a letter, and he began to read it. At the moment, her father was strongly restraining his emotions, so much that his hand began to tremble. The father called on the youth to take it all back immediately, and the youth tried to calm her down and told him not to worry. The mother also asked what was in the father's hands, but he said she didn't need to know. The clerk explained that he only had to leave the letter and return back. The girl at that time asked her father to look at this letter. The father explained that she had no need to look at it, but the girl had already snatched the letter from his hands. Apparently there was some offer in the letter. Elena immediately turned the letter over and read it to the end. This letter was a proposal of hand and heart. In other words, a proposal to become the Viscount's mistress. The heroine found this very amusing. In the past, she would have panicked and burst into tears, feeling like she had lost the whole world in despair, but it won't be like that anymore. The heroine was not sure, but it seemed that Leah Brick wanted Elena to lose hope because it could drive her to despair. Thus, she could easily approach the heroine and offer a helping hand. The father put on his jacket and said that his daughter should not worry about it. He would take care of it. He intended to meet with Vicomte and refuse this offer. His mother told him to express everything to him. The girl was horrified and said that she had decided everything. His trap was that her family could suffer. The heroine smiled and asked for permission to say what she wanted. Since the Viscount's gift was intended for her, she decided to take everything into her own hands. The proposal that Elena received from Viscount was accepted. The parents were perplexed. They asked the girl if she wanted to leave them. She said there was nothing to be done about it. She knew what could follow her refusal, and she really didn't want that. The father didn't even know if it would be the right decision, for his princess wanted a good husband. The heroine smiled and said that after all, she agreed to accept the offer, and at the same time apologized for her parents. The father thought all this time that all this happened only because of his fault. Elena noticed her father's fists trembling, and she thought only about her parents forgiving her. Meanwhile, the young servant said that he would be glad to deliver such pleasant news to the Viscount, and would certainly convey everything to his master. As soon as the young man left, Mom immediately burst into tears. She thought that her daughter would miss them. The girl took her by the hand and explained that it was not their fault at all, and that she should not worry. Following his mother, the father could not hold back either. He confessed that they had raised her with all their love. The girl put her hand on her father's shoulder and said that he was not to blame either, for it was only her choice. She said that if they believed her, they should be calm, and, please, let them keep an eye on her. When Elena entered the room, she thought that she had to wound her parents with bad news as many as twice. She closed the door, but understood that she could not retreat, otherwise all her efforts would be completely meaningless. Therefore, it is very important now not to deviate from the plan. She had already managed to memorize the future for the next 5 years. Events had to unfold exactly as she had recorded, so it was crucial to change everything right from the start. This time everything had to be the way she wants. The first important event from the memories was the banquet on the occasion of the birthday of Grand Duke Frederick. Only 2 months remained until the banquet, which is why the Viscount wanted to take the heroine away as soon as possible. On that very day, she became a candidate for the role of Veronica. Veronica herself had not appeared in high society for a very long time. There were bad rumors circulating about her. The Duke wanted to make Veronica the Empress, but all these rumors adversely affected the reputation of the duchy, so appearing at the banquet could be a good way to stop all this gossip and show how good and kind the future princess was. Elena was going to become the one who would control people like figures on a chessboard, and of course she had a plan capable of turning everything in her favor. The Duke had wealth, glory, and he had something to lose, the great Duke Francesco. The heroine thought about Leah Brick and Veronica. She knew that their fall was not the end of everything. To acquire something, she first had to lose something, so she decided to destroy all her memories. But something in her heart would still remain forever. She was going to get rid of all traces of her plan. The girl burned all the papers and fell wearily onto the bed. She had only to wait, and late in the evening she went to the kitchen to her mother. She suggested that they open these huge trunks together so that they would not go to waste. In one of the chests there was a sick dress that was not yet finished, and the material was simply terrible. Only the decorations saved it. Elena put on one of her mother's necklaces, and this greatly embarrassed her. She hugged her mom and confessed that she had never had such a beautiful double necklace. She would like her mother to wear it. At this time, the father had already returned home. He was clearly worried about something. He asked to wait for his family, since he had brought a guest. Mom thought it was all clearly strange, since he had never invited anyone to his house before. The stranger had clean white skin, and he thanked everyone for their kindness. An unfamiliar woman turned out to be an elderly woman. She greeted everyone and explained that her name was Leah Brigg de Flanders. Of course, Elena recognized her. It was the woman who had killed her parents, taken them hostage, and controlled her like a puppet. Ever since she returned, she dreamed of revenge every day, but now was not the time. The girl smiled and softly said that she was glad to meet. The woman explained that she was not sure about Elena, but she had definitely heard about her father. The father joyfully exclaimed that Elena no longer needed to become Viscount's mistress. The woman first asked everyone to look at the photographs, and everyone noticed the resemblance between this photograph and her girl. Veronica was more graceful and noble than anyone in her circle. 3 months ago, she fell asleep in the arms of the goddess Gaia. The woman said that the problem was that her master could never forget her. The heroine's mother was touched and pressed a handkerchief to her face. Leah sighed. She knew that this desire was unattainable because it was impossible to bring the dead back to life. She was told that there was a person resembling Veronica, and she offered Miss Elena to become the daughter of the Viscount. All these sweet speeches only worsened the situation and tricks of Leah Brigg. She said that she understands that all this is sudden, but it was done not only because of her master. Leah also did not want Miss Elena to become a mistress. Her father had once seen this pattern on a case. It belonged to a very influential noble family. He ordered his daughter to go, because a new good life awaited her. The mother, in turn, also persuaded her to do as her father ordered. The heroine said that if they couldn't change anything, her proposal was the only option left, so she could hold on. Although the girl agreed to the deal, she did not intend to be an easy target. Leah said that the Duke would be incredibly happy to see his daughter alive again. Elena wondered how her life would go as his daughter. Leah smiled conspiratorially and said that the world would revolve around her. Hundreds of dresses of the highest quality, jewelry made of the finest precious stones of the north, and receptions of any theme awaited her for Miss. The heroine also inquired whether she could take a knight for herself. Leah inquired whether she wanted such a noble knight who would always be on her side, as in the Song of Roland. She smiled and explained that Elena would be entitled to do so. Leah also said that she had already set up a special place for her parents, where they were supposed to go immediately after their departure. The heroine understood that from now on she had to be an obedient daughter, for she knew what Leah was aiming at. The woman took a bag out of her jacket and put it on the table. She offered it to the father for the sake of her daughter. Those gemstones were so that in the future the parents would have to leave the country, and they were their starting capital. The father insisted that he did not want to take them, but his daughter insisted that he take this money. Only the girl managed to approach her parents when Leah had already informed that it was time for them to leave. The mother of the heroine asked Leah why they had to leave so quickly. Couldn't she spend at least a couple of hours with her daughter? Leah explained that they had to leave now so that they would not be tracked down, and the mother thought that everything had happened so suddenly. She burst into tears and explained that she wanted to spend at least one day with her daughter. The father tried to calm her down and said that their daughter would definitely be better off there, but the mother could not bring herself to let her daughter go. The heroine thought that if they didn't waste time regretting, but returned, then a day would come when they would see each other again and everything would be all right. Leah Brick apologized and explained that they had to leave the house immediately that night. The heroine explained that she would go, but in return she asked to be allowed to spend a few hours with her family. The woman agreed and gave them only 2 hours. When she returns, they must be ready. After Leah's departure, the mother approached the heroine and placed her palm on her cheek. She did not understand when her daughter had become so grown up. She told how Elena had always been a real child and asked not to worry about them, but rather to think about herself. The girl realized that this was the perfect moment and there was no need to delay. She turned to her parents and explained that they had to leave the house before Leah Brick's return. She briefly told them that what was more interesting was how, as soon as they found themselves in a difficult situation, this woman immediately appeared, as if she had known everything in advance and was only waiting for the right moment. The parents understood everything, and Elena handed them a book that explained why they had to leave and what to do next. As soon as they exit through the back door, they had to follow the trail straight to Mount Lowe's. 50 paces ahead of them, to the right of the Zelkova tree, a stream will flow. If they go down the mountain slope along the stream, downstream a boat should be waiting. The father did not understand when his daughter had managed to think all this through. He understood that it was impossible to do this without preliminary preparations. He thought that Elena had always been a charming child, but foolish. And all this changed in an amazing way 2 months ago, as if his daughter had been completely replaced. The mother approached her daughter. She was extremely worried about what situation her daughter would find herself in next. It is unknown why, but the girl was needed by them so they would not harm her in any way. But her parents would have been a completely different matter. They would not have left them alive. The heroine explained to her parents that she had to stay, or rather even go to the Empire. She was going to take revenge on everyone who wanted to harm her and her parents. Meanwhile, the parents had already dressed and prepared for the journey, and they asked the girl if they had put her in danger, and she replied that no. All this was inevitable. Like a July downpour that comes silently, she could not hide from it. It would be great to find a place where the heroine could hide. She hugged her mom and dad and decided that they had to survive no matter what. A little while later, Elena made sure that her parents had left and that the time allotted to them was about to end. A little later, Leah called her, and Yelena pretended that she was crying. The woman inquired about the girl's parents, and she explained that she barely made herself leave them and went out alone. The heroine explained that they had to hurry up so that she wouldn't have time to change her mind. Leah assumed that the girl looked as if she was about to faint. She should have listened to her. The woman called the knight over and said that he was now responsible for those two, that he should be polite and courteous. The heroine at that moment was recalling that if this was the knight who had originally been with her at that time, then it was probably impossible. This was Sir Larache, the very knight who had once slain her. Before her very death, he confessed that he had never considered her his lady, since the real mistress had returned. He was going to apologize for killing her with his own hands. Then in the dungeon, the heroine did not feel the pain from the blade that pierced her body, but the pain from betrayal and loss of everything was indescribable. Now, if you think about it, the one who killed her parents was most likely this very person. But even at the dawn of his powers, he is no more than a knight on a chessboard. Leah informed that she had requested for the carriage to pick them up near the gentleman's estate. Until then, they must travel incognito. The heroine glanced back one last time at the knight who bowed to them as they left. She decided that someday there would come a day when he too would cry. At that time they were traveling to the Duke through the forests. Elena noticed that this night was the same as it was then. The only thing that had changed was her heart. Leah took her by the hands and suggested that she was thinking too hard. She asked her not to worry too much. She said that the heroine decided to become the daughter of this man, and no one should voice any objections. The girl grabbed Leah by the hands and thanked her wholeheartedly. The woman released her hands and said that there was no need for gratitude, since they were not sisters at all. Meanwhile, the heroine and Leah in the carriage had already traveled far enough for the knight's subsequent actions. He no longer had any reason to postpone this matter, and with his sword, he went straight into the house. The woman ordered him to kill Elena's parents, for they must nip any obstacles in the bud. According to her words, all this was done in the name of the Duke. However, when the knight opened the door of their house, he found nothing. It was completely empty. He ordered his soldiers to track them, for it was they who had been inside earlier, but now they were not there. At this time in the carriage, Leah urged the heroine to hold on a little longer until they reached Cylons. The girl explained that everything was fine, and that the woman should not worry. She had been very attentive. Elena tried to act like a sweet girl and smiled all the time. She stated that if that's how they treated her, then she was sure that whoever that person was, they were a very important figure. Leah had been thinking all this time that the girl was blinded by luxury, and as a result she was unable to realize what was really happening around her. She didn't even know that she was just a puppet that would be discarded as soon as she was no longer useful. It was very easy for Lee to say what this heroine was thinking about. Elena herself mentally thought about Leah continuing to see her precisely like that and look at her as a foolish beggar. Leah told her that in fact more than 2 months had passed, and the Duke had not been able to organize the funeral, which shocked the girl terribly. He was so attached to Milady that he could not let her go. Only a few knew of her death. What proved that his attachment to Veronica bordered on obsession was the fact that her death had not been officially announced. Leah explained that she knows what is worrying Elena, but nothing like that will happen to her. The woman said that the heroine would not be his adopted daughter but his own. At that time Leah thought that even such an ignorant girl as she should know who is called a lady. She thought that the foolish Elena was happy from the mere thought that she would live like a high-born aristocrat, excited and believing that her new life, completely different from the past, would soon begin. The heroine smiled. She knew that Leah wanted to see her precisely like that and let her continue to believe in it further. Leah also said that every year Veronica is spoken of as the most suitable match for the prince's crown. People said it was just a dream, but if Miss Elena desires it with all her heart, the dream can become reality. The girl was embarrassed. It was quite difficult for her to pretend genuine joy. And at that time Leah was wrongly thinking that as soon as the girl touched this life, she had already gone blind. Elena clutched her skirts and admitted that something was bothering her suddenly if other people suspected that she was not the real Lady Veronica. Leah informed that she would teach her how to be graceful and elegant so that no one would dare to suspect her. And Elena was deadly tired of pretending to be a toy while they were riding in that carriage. Her parents by that time should have already reached the Vitselia Empire. In this place one could start life anew, with a new status and name. When the girl woke up, bright sunlight was shining through her window, and they were already in the city of Pylos. Leah, who was next to her, admitted that she felt a sense of tranquility when looking at the sea. Elena at that time pretended that she was crying, thinking about Mom and Dad. A woman sat down next to her and tried to bother her, but the heroine asked to take care of them. She called her sister and hugged her tightly, and Leah informed that they would now take care of them. Leah admitted that it was very touching, since as a girl it was easy to manipulate her, without even trying. And the heroine understood that sooner or later she would be reported about the escape of her parents, and when that happened, she would be the first suspect. Elena did not know whether she was really helpless or just pretending. Meanwhile, the knight came to Leah's balcony and explained that when they arrived, there was no trace left of her parents. Leah did not understand how they could comprehend what was happening. The knight said that he set out after them, but when he reached the middle of the mountains, their trail ended abruptly. In addition to escaping and revealing their plan, they also covered up their tracks so they wouldn't be caught. The knight also said that after the battle they found footprints leading to the docks, but due to the current it was simply impossible to follow them in the water. The woman explained that it was not his fault. All of this was just as strange for her. No matter how long she thought about it, she still didn't understand. The woman pondered that if she thought about it while she was picking up Elena, they would already be impossible to find. Could they not have let Elena out the door alone that day in order to gain some time? The heroine herself could also pretend in front of her that she didn't know about it, but it seems that she really didn't suspect anything. Leah was thought that her tears were feigned, but quickly cut off this thought from herself. Nevertheless, Leah thought that Elena was merely a mediocre aristocrat who was easy to read. She asked the knight to stop the search because it was just an unfortunate failure, and it's not something that could cause problems now. The next day, the heroine was already riding in a carriage with Leah and yawning because she hadn't slept enough. The woman called out to her and explained that earlier that morning she had received news from her parents. She said that now they were safe, and Jeroania breathed a sigh of relief, although she knew it was all lies. But meanwhile, Leah said that her mom, unfortunately, fell ill, and the heroine was very upset by this because she thought that all this happened because of her. Leah thought that the idea that her parents could have run away didn't even cross Elena's mind. She asked the heroine not to worry, because she simply had a fever due to overwork. The girl even sobbed a little. She was so afraid that something might happen to them. Now, according to Leah, they have certainly already reached the Murian Islands. Many said that the Murian Islands were a paradise, but in reality they were completely infested with pirates. The girl was delighted and said that once she had read books about these islands, and now her parents would be able to live peacefully without any difficulties. Elena showed her carefree and joyful demeanor, while at the same time thinking that her mom and dad should be safe now. Meanwhile, they had already arrived at the harbor, and Ilya asked the heroine to be careful because everything here was like in a fog. They sneaked into the cabin, and the woman explained that this would be their room for the duration of the journey. And since they lived together, the heroine had to learn various basics. The woman asked the girl if she needed anything else and seated her at the table with a pen. Leah's behavior changed completely. Previously, her speech was gentle, but now it became stricter. She wanted to intimidate her. In the past, Elena was indeed afraid, but now she was completely different. She decided that she would carefully bend this line so that she would not be caught. As if balancing on a shaky tightrope, they sailed the next 9 days together, until the ship reached the shores of the empire. While Elena was taking notes, Leah was saying that the more power is concentrated in one set of hands, the weaker it becomes. She explained that since Elena is the legitimate daughter of Grand Duke Friedrich, it is a dignity that she must preserve at any cost. The girl feigned surprise and asked again, did she really have to be the daughter of the Grand Duke? Leah replied that Lady Veronica is the only biological daughter of the Grand Duke. Now this is her new identity. Finally, it was time to disembark. How long had it been since Elena last breathed fresh air? Thank God she managed to run away before she got seasick. She was tired of pretending to be stupid in front of Leah Breek. When they were already driving in Crete, Leah explained that this road leads to a secret place straight through the forest. The residents appeared after descending from the mountain road, surrounded by a vast forest. When Elena descended from the carriage, Leah explained that her maid would be Miss Jane. She would take care of her from that moment on. Also, despite the fact that the maid was deaf, she could read. Already inside the palace, the woman explained that they would go right now to meet someone. When the doors opened, Elena saw the Duke shedding a tear and looking straight into her eyes. He could not believe his eyes, the face showing immeasurable joy, and the voice was trembling and happy. Once long ago, his face was completely different. In the dungeon, he asked if she really put herself in the place of a noblewoman. She should have known her place. The girl understood that she could not allow her emotions to take over now, and she had to restrain herself. The Duke admitted that this feeling was as if he had to meet his dead daughter. He told how he used to devote a lot of time to work, but now he regretted that he had neglected his family in the past. Elena understood that these words meant nothing, and she did not want to listen to them. The happy Duke extended his hand to her and inquired if she would like to become his daughter. The girl grabbed his hand and happily said that she would do everything possible to be his daughter. She explained that she would become a daughter he would be proud of and not ashamed of. The Duke offered her to rest a little in his chambers since the girl was very tired. Leah escorted her to the room and told her to rest a little, and if she needed anything, to call Jane. The heroine fell onto the bed and admitted how difficult it had been for her to hold back laughter. In her past life, she was so worried about what others would think of her that even the slightest mistake would make her feel unwell. But then she did not yet know the power of those cards she was dealing with. In order for Elena to become Veronica, lessons were held every following day. They taught her how to look, eat, speak, and how to spend her day as an aristocrat. Leah explained that the door would not open until she had learned everything she had given her, and she had better finish everything before dinner. The heroine thought that, fortunately, she remembered what she had studied in the past, so less time was wasted in vain. With her current knowledge, she was unable to overthrow Grand Duke Frederick. She needed more money and power to overcome him. Very soon there was to be a revolution in the artistic culture and empire, and if the heroine became one of the leading figures of the new era, it would undoubtedly benefit her. To begin with, Elena intended to sow discord within the duchy. Then she decided to find all their debts and would squeeze the last kopecks out of their wallet. She had to wait 3 weeks here, though it was not easy for her, but she had thought about it hundreds, if not thousands of times. In her opinion, this plan was perfect. The heroine thought about how she wanted to see how long the Duke could still walk around with such a smug face. The next morning, Leah was having lunch together with our heroine, and our heroine thanked her for all the training. In Elena's task, etiquette had to be so natural as to show her true thoughts, but in a veiled form. For this, noble ladies studied etiquette from an early age. Leah was amazed at how the heroine managed to learn everything in just 3 weeks. It seemed as if a completely different person was standing in front of her. She thought that Elena was not as stupid as she thought. A little later, the woman in the library handed over sheets listing the nobles and aristocrats who were active in the imperial social circle. She instructed the heroine to learn all the names by heart. After that, Leah asked with a serious face if she would be able to get all this done in time. The heroine explained that she would try to do it, and the first was Duke Feet. It was one of the outstanding families of the empire. Leah explained that Elena must be careful with people who love Lady Veronica. She should not have revealed her true identity. The heroine thought that everyone already knew this face, that it was a waste of time. Further, Leah showed the future emperor, who was the crown prince. This was the person whom the heroine loved more than anyone else in the world, and also the person who hated her more than anyone else in the world. When they had a son, Prince was stunned. He thought it was a momentary weakness that would destroy the 1,000-year-old empire. The heroine was very shocked and upset by his words. The emperor and the duke always had strained relations due to political disagreements. The Duke of French, or Brick, forced the emperor to constantly be on the alert, blinded by their greed. Once they committed a terrible act, they poisoned the empress to prevent the birth of a legitimate heir. Elena did not even imagine then that it was part of their plan. After reflecting on everything that had happened, the girl finally got to the bottom of the truth. In the past, she knew nothing, moreover, she was constantly shaming him. Suddenly, Leah responded to her and asked if she was listening to her at all or not. The girl confessed that she simply fell in love with the prince, so she did not hear her mentor. The woman explained that in order to meet the crown prince, she first needed to learn everything about the crown prince. Elena promised herself that she would never, ever fall in love with a prince again. One of the last on the list was Ren Bastacci, heir of the Bastacci family, a distant relative of Lady Veronica. The heroine realized that she had finally caught that very bad person. Leah warned that he is a dangerous man, and one should never get close to him under any circumstances. The Bastacci family previously belonged to the ducal house, but they gained independence thanks to the Centennial Treaty. This treaty meant that they had to swear allegiance to the House of Friedrich. The treaty is still in force, and depending on the needs of the Duke, they are effectively the hounds of the House of Friedrich. The reason for this was the Duke's desire to take control of the postal service and humiliate it. But in the end, his own arrogance turned the Duke into their main target, and that's how the most vicious dog in the whole wide world came to be. He had already come to her and said that it seemed to him that she was unwell. She explained that the medicines worked well and she managed to get out of this illness, and he asked again if that was really the case. He approached the poor girl and called her cousin, staring straight into her eyes. He smirked, imagining how funny it would be if they took the counterfeit. At that moment, the heroine realized that he had completely figured her out and knew that she was not the real Veronica. From the very beginning of their meeting, he knew that she was not the real Veronica, so he blackmailed the heroine, hoping to steal the Duke's secrets. Elena did not understand how he found out that she was not Veronica. Leah explained that the task for today was to learn everything by tomorrow, and the heroine said that she would try her best. The woman said that a real battle had now begun, and she would have no right to make a mistake. In 2 days they had to head to the Duke's residence, so they needed to hurry. Several days later, they were already riding in a carriage, and the woman explained that the heroine must control her facial expressions. She explained that the girl named Elena no longer existed. It was not enough to simply dress like Lady Veronica, she had to become her completely. She had mentioned it earlier, but soon there was to be a banquet in honor of Duke Roberts's birthday. As soon as Elena stepped out of the carriage, she was greeted by a crowd of servants. And most importantly, the Duke himself came out to greet her with open arms. When Elena was about to thank him for the opportunity, he said that it was not him she should thank, but the goddess Gaia. Finally, they went inside, and the Duke admitted that the girl had changed a lot because of this. Now he sees Veronica in her. Elena did not conceal that she still had a long way to go before she could justify their desire. The Duke smiled kindly and said that he was very glad to have met her. He again offered the girl to rest, since they had made a long journey and she needed rest. Leah supported him. She asked again if the heroines remembered what her room was like. As soon as Elena disappeared from the horizon, the Duke changed his facial expression and admitted that Leah did not disappoint him. He called Elena a dirty girl who fancied herself an aristocrat. This was only her first appearance, and since she had studied very little, he thought she would be exposed as soon as she spoke to others. Leah sipped her tea and said that she was considering using a chronic illness as an excuse so that the nobles could not see her. Meanwhile, having entered the room, the heroine was already recalling the names of all these servants standing before her. She also saw one of the maids, a redhead named Annie. The maid stuttered, trying to tell her something, but the heroine let slip that she had never said the maid could open her mouth. The girl bowed and showered with apologies, as she thought she had messed up. Elena approached her and said that she never studied. How could she have allowed her to go out to serve her? And all this was said only because once long ago Elena was seized, and this servant did not stand up for her in any way. She was simply standing and smiling, and only then did the heroine realize that from the very beginning she had been on Leah Brick's side. Although she was young, she already skillfully deceived her then, saying pleasant little words. Elena thought how foolish she had been to believe her cheap games. Finally, the girl smiled and said that all her spoken words were just a joke, and they already looked so tense. She turned to her and put her hand on her shoulder, asking her to take good care of her and not pay attention to her jokes. The heroine herself at that moment thought that she had more important matters, but she would definitely deal with this servant sometime. When the girl got to her room, she summoned one of the maids and told her to clean the room completely and change the furniture. She turned to all her maids and said for them to throw out absolutely everything from this room. In the room, after some time, an absolute commotion began. All the servants were dragging furniture and curtains back and forth. The girl called Annie over and asked her to tell the butler to summon a skilled tailor and carpenter. Finally, she also asked the maid to have all the dresses, sewn curtains, and carpets delivered from the store before sunset. At that time, Leah was walking along the corridor and did not understand what was going on here at all, what kind of commotion it was. The maids explained to her that the lady had ordered him to take everything from her room and burn it, which greatly surprised the woman. Time passed, and Lucian the tailor came to visit Milady. She thanked him for going the whole way, and had also heard that he was developing some kind of dress especially for her. The dress he was going to sew had to emphasize her status as a socialite in the former society. It was like the Milky Way. The girl said that the dress should also be decorated with many teardrop-shaped precious stones, and the dress that will reflect the rays of light like a diamond. All this information only whetted the tailor's appetite. He was happy to sew such dresses for her. The heroine understood that there was no need to try so hard. She didn't want a new thing at all. It had to be a dress created solely to divert the eyes. The dress was supposed to be just a profitable investment. In the past, Elena was so carried away by the idea that she had become a replacement for Veronica that it was absolutely natural for her to limit her expenses. But now she was planning to use the Duke's resources to swallow him alive. She thought that destroying the Duke with his own wealth, this very idea excited her. The girl asked to keep the visit a secret. After some time, she was sitting on the balcony sipping tea. The girl was tired after spending the whole day choosing new dresses and furniture. It was strange to her that she still hadn't seen Leo Brick. She had caused such a mess, so it was high time for her to show up. Finally, Leah Brick herself appeared on the balcony, her gaze clearly disappointed. She explained that she had to discuss something with her grace. The woman approached Elena and inquired who had actually said that she could behave in such a manner. The heroine pretended to be scared and acted innocent. She wondered how there could be any punishment for such trifles. Leah calmed down a little, but said that she still should have consulted with her first. Ever since all of Veronica's old servants were transferred, there was not a single person left in the residence who would doubt Elena. But the woman still explained that there is nothing more terrifying than rumors. She must be careful, whatever she does. When Leah asked if her heroine understood, she replied that yes, she would be more careful in the future. When the woman finally left, our heroine thought that if this was Leah's wish, she would have to obey, and she smirked at last. In her office, Leah was thinking about how much time she had spent traveling with Elena. Just imagine how much work had piled up during that time. Due to Lady Veronica's long absence, damage to the duchy was inevitable. But nevertheless, no one else could take the place of the successor. Interrupting Leah from her thoughts, Elena rushed into the room, apologizing for distracting her so unexpectedly. The girl wrung her hands and innocently explained that she didn't even have a couple of decent pairs of shoes, so she was considering ordering some new pairs. Leah, with a detached expression, explained that she had no objection and asked the butler to invite someone to the estate. She turned around and said that she still had a couple of questions. She would also like to acquire a precious necklace because she had no jewelry at all, and Leah said that she was not against it either. After some time, the heroine ran back into Leah's office and said that the jewelry turned out to be more expensive than she thought. Would everything be okay if she still bought it? Leah has already crumpled the paper on the table with a frenzy. She said that the heroine can buy as many decorations as she needs. And so it went on exactly every day. Elena constantly rushed into Leah's office to prevent her from working with another request. By the end, the woman was already angry. It seemed to her that the heroine was simply playing with her. One of those days, early in the morning, the heroine also peeked into her office, said that she had woken up early, so she was going out for a walk. The woman explained that she had just made tea, so it hadn't cooled down yet. She asked to be given the opportunity to finish everything so that they could talk. While Elena was drinking tea, she thought that it was unlikely that these papers were related to work. Finally, the woman handed her a slip of paper, and the heroine glanced at it. Just imagine, she had reduced her limits to 20,000 francs. Before she became empress, she was given 100,000 francs for expenses to maintain her appearance. Comparing with this, it was undoubtedly little. On the other hand, all this had absolutely no meaning for the heroine. Elena smirked. She needed to tell Leah her schedule now. She had probably created this rule to control her movements. Elena suggested taking permission for her schedule today due to the new rules since she is already here. She has already decided what will be in this schedule. The next moment, the girl handed the schedule into Leah's hand, and she read out that she was meeting with the jeweler in the morning and was going for a walk in the afternoon. Elena explained that since the garden is very large, she would need much more time to look around it. Finally, the girl also inquired when she would be able to meet her knight. Leah said soon, as she was just looking for a worthy knight for her. The girl pretended to be surprised. She could not believe how Leah was personally looking for a knight for her. The woman told how at Friedrich's house there are many magnificent knights. Among them, she dared to say that there is the most suitable one to serve her. This knight turned out to be Sir Laresh, who made our heroine unpleasantly surprised. Leah suggested meeting him for a cup of tea in the afternoon, and the heroine agreed. As soon as Elena stepped outside, she thought about how Sir Laresh could possibly be the perfect knight for her, as if Leah considered her foolish. They tried to control everything by assigning her a knight. What a pity that everything had to go wrong, as Leah Brick had planned, because she was going to make sure she had the best knight who would be on her side until the end. A little later, the girl was already strolling through the garden and examining various leaves. The sun's rays were warm. You could sunbathe in them, but today she had a slightly different goal. She turned around the outskirts of the terrace and saw knights fighting. It was their training camp. James, the commander of the 2nd Night Division, noticed her and immediately greeted and bowed. The girl blushed. She said that she was just walking and somehow suddenly found herself here. Elena explained to him that she was just going to have a cup of tea here, after which she would leave again on her business. When they were already sitting under the tree, her servants with obvious shock and amazement watched the knights fighting. They were all indeed good, but nevertheless the heroine was looking only at one knight, whom she had not yet seen on the battlefield. Finally she found him. He was attractive, athletic, cold in appearance, which made it difficult to read his emotions. This was the Ice Knight Uralbard. There were 3 swords protecting the empire. The first sword was the foundation blade, passed down from generation to generation in the imperial family. The second sword was Hurlbard, the Ice Knight. The third sword was Ren, the Wild Wolf. Simply put, the first sword is a real weapon, and Hurlbard and Ren are the best swordsmen in the empire. The girl approached the knights with a handkerchief and said that she could not sit still, watching from the sidelines. She wiped the sweat from one of the guys' faces with her own handkerchief. The girl said that thanks to all of them the Friedrich house still existed, and she was grateful to each of them. At the end of this phrase, Elena turned her head towards the iciest knight. He blushed and quickly averted his gaze. Elizabeth said loudly, although it was just a coincidence, they still impressed her a lot today. The girl said that very recently she was feeling unwell, so it's a great pity that she didn't have the opportunity to see them all in person. The heroine also explained that the day would soon come when she could personally choose her knight. Important events, such as the election of a personal knight, must be carried out in accordance with the established rules. Elena was already looking forward to who would become her next knight. Meanwhile, Leah invited Sir Laresh, who was already sitting on the couch, into her chambers. She decided to get straight to the point and asked him to become Lady Elena's personal knight. She said that he needed to pretend to be loyal to the mistress. Doing this, he had to watch her actions and never control them, if necessary. In return, he asked that on the day when the real Lady Veronica returns to her rightful place, he be allowed to restore her himself. Leah thought that even if serving a false lady was in order, it was still a disgrace for a knight. They agreed on that. She invited him to dine with the lady that evening. As soon as the sir left the threshold, another sir immediately rushed into her room. He told how Elena made an unscheduled visit today and announced that the knight's election would take place in a few days. Leah was beside herself with anger. She did not understand what the heroine was doing. The next moment she ordered the servant to bring Elena here immediately. She did not understand why this girl was doing what she wanted. Soon Elena was already sitting with her head bowed in her office. The girl made a surprised face and asked what she had done this time. Leah maliciously told the heroine to ask only because she really didn't know or was just mocking. Elena said that it was all because she thought she could appoint the virtuoso knight herself, and so she simply said that she would appoint the most worthy of them as her personal knight. Leah screamed because the heroine still didn't understand what she meant. Elena openly regretted it. She did not know that she was forbidden to do that. Simply when she was studying the Rulanga song and imperial ceremonies, she thought these were traditions for all knights. Leah thought that before Elena left for the principality, she had an idealized notion of taking the oath. The problem now was that Elena had already spoken about a major electoral ceremony, and since a dozen people had already heard, rumors would spread quickly. Only Sir Larash's appointment as her personal knight mattered now, whether it was a secret or public. Leah explained to Elena that if she made another mistake, she would have to send her back. The girl fell to her knees, began to cry, and say that she would never make mistakes again. The woman really hoped that this girl would be able to keep her word. And at that time, Elena was thinking mockingly that without her, Leah's situation would have deteriorated even further. Finally, the woman suggested meeting with Sir Knights right now. Elena tried to wave it off, saying that she was not in a condition now, as she was very tired from the walk, but Leah insisted on the meeting. She approached the bookcase and pushed aside one of the books. A click and a rumble were heard, and after that the mechanisms started working and a door opened between the shelves. Elena went inside. She understood that in such a secret place there was no chance that even a single word would slip out from there. At the end of the corridor, Sir Larash was already standing, greeting his lady. The girl made a feigned admiration and said how much she had heard about him. It seemed he was even more attractive than the rumors had it. He asked in advance to forgive him, his carelessness. Before Elena could understand what was happening, he leaned over and kissed her palm, taking her hand in his. Elena said that he is very amazing and surely no one will be able to match this, sir. Leah thought that this was a silly girl, now completely charmed by this knight. Meanwhile, the knight said that he promises to dedicate his sword, name, and life to her, to be on her side and take care of her. Several days after the conversation, Elena was already prepared for the knightly oath. She was very beautiful and asked one of the maids if Leah Brick was waiting for her outside. When she came out to the woman, she said that she was very sorry that she had to wait for a long time. Elena said that she had already finished cooking and asked how she looked in Leah's eyes. She said that it was very sweet and asked how the last time they had tea with the raw knight. The heroine smiled artificially again and said that it was simply wonderful even though they had only had tea together once. Leah explained that the swearing in of Larache the cheese today, and he will be eagerly awaiting it and will be very saddened if she does not choose him. After the conversation, they were already walking through the garden and heading towards the center, where the oath was supposed to take place. Hundreds of knights admired how graceful even the gait of Milady was. She climbed onto the platform and greeted absolutely all the knights. The girl bowed and said that it was an honor for her to be here with them today. She finally found her ice knight, who was also standing with everyone in the crowd. The girl smiled. She decided that today would be a fun day. Finally, the time came to meet the knights, and the instructor naturally introduced Larache first, saying that he was the best of all divisions and was among the top leaders in terms of skills. Leah explained that even the great Duke had set his sights on this knight. The heroine smirked inwardly. Of course, this knight thought that she would choose him today. But nevertheless, Elena, with an ostentatious swagger, passed by him. Even Leah was shocked by this. She did not know what else to expect. Finally, the girl walked a little further and stopped beside her ice knight. She asked the instructor to introduce her to this knight. He explained that this was Hyurlbad from the 2nd Division. He had been appointed a knight only 10 days ago. The instructor also said that he had never been a squire due to his low birth. He still had to learn chivalry. Elena noticed that his facial expression did not change at all. Perhaps that's why he was nicknamed the Ice Knight. Finally, the heroine decided that he would be her knight and asked for his sword. She knew that he would become the sword of the House of Friedrich and gain fame throughout the empire. It would all begin when he suppressed the rebellion in the north at the end of this year. If his sword skills did not improve at all in a month or two, it means that his natural talent manifested when he was still a squire. He must have simply been hiding his abilities all this time. Elena was still standing beside him and asking him to lower his sword. She said that the owner of this sword has already been determined. The instructor said that right now there were many knights here far more experienced than Sir Hyurlbad. He did not try to challenge her choice, but asked what Sir Hyurlbad had done to so endear himself to her. The heroine happily explained that he was simply handsome, which is why she chose him. Leah was horrified. She did not understand what kind of person she was to say something so frivolous and uncultured in front of so many people. The girl turned her gaze back to the knight and asked how much longer he intended to make her wait. Finally, he introduced himself and went down on one knee. He was made to swear to serve Lady Veronica von Friedrich until the end of his days. Elena at that time thought that she would treat him well, so she mentally asked to take care of her. The instructor acknowledged that there were many witnesses today, and Sir James was one of those witnesses. At this time, Leah was still standing with an angry face and looking at the heroine together with her knight. The girl was thinking at that time that what's done is done, and if the situation can be saved, why not save it? She turned to the Ice Knight and asked him to take care of her. A little later, she was already drinking tea in her room in the presence of the knight, and was delighted to have acquired him. She scrutinized him so carefully that he asked if there was something on his face, and the heroine replied that she wished there was something there so she could start a conversation with him. The girl asked to leave her alone for a while, as she is expecting company. As soon as the knight left the threshold and Leah entered, our heroine immediately fell to her knees and began to beg for forgiveness. She explained that the Hyurlbad cheese was so beautiful that she could not resist it. The girl wanted to repent again, but Leah told her to get up from her knees and that everything was fine, which even surprised our heroine. The woman put her hands on her shoulders and said that she should not worry as she respected her opinion. Elena did not understand why she suddenly started behaving like that. Leah moved closer to her and said that she would no longer allow her to behave like that, because then her parents could continue living in the Mariana Islands. Such behavior was more like Leah, and the heroine immediately believed her. Sometime later, she was ready to receive guests and put on her golden dress. Leah admitted that this radiance is simply capable of blinding. The woman explained that she could not go in that dress, since the festive banquet was a significant evening in honor of the first head of the clan. She suggested that she wear the blank of another red dress. Although the work was still in progress, Leah thought that it seemed they had found what suited her. The woman explained to the girl that, firstly, she should not have spoken out of turn because there would be many aristocrats present. And secondly, there was no need to take any independent action. And finally, it was necessary to warn Ren. Elena thought that this was the only thing they agreed on. The anniversary was supposed to be tomorrow, and carriages were slowly arriving. The heroine asked her knight what he thought, watching all these carriages. He explained to her what it meant, that there were many nobles, and Elena said that it was of no use, and at that moment their eyes met. The knight immediately apologized to her for this. He explained that she was clearly not the person he could easily understand. She remembered René Bastache, one of the members of a collateral branch of the royal family who had achieved independence from the ducal house. She remembered that he was a rude and vulgar person, in whom there was not a grain of manners. Elena asked her knight that no matter how rude he would be to her, he would not have to interfere. The knight in turn bowed and said that he understood everything. Elena decided that there was no reason to make a fuss when she ran into Ren. On the anniversary day itself, quite a lot of carriages and guests had already arrived. At this birthday celebration, Lady Veronica will return to high society. The maids at that time met Ren in their corridors. He looked a little pale for a nobleman. The guy turned to them and explained that if they were so interested, they could just come up and ask. The maid standing next to him apologized and headed forward. But he tripped her up, and the next moment the clumsy maid fell to the floor along with the dishes. He explained that even though she had deeply wounded his heart, the servant did not properly apologize. The poor girl fell to her knees and said that she would do anything, just so that he would not be angry with her. Ren admitted that she was learning quickly for a servant and smiled. The whole situation amused him. Smug Ren left the maids alone and hurried away. He approached one of the rooms and was about to open the door, but the knight blocked his way. Ren said that he was not someone the knight could look at so carelessly and asked him to step aside. But the knight insisted. He asked Ren to confirm his identity first. The dark-haired man gave him a hard slap in the next moment. But even the battered knight still stood and continued to insist that Ren confirm his identity. The guy did not understand why the knight risked his life for nothing and was asking for a fight. He wanted to hit him, but the other caught his fist. At that moment, our heroine peeked out of her room and asked to stop all this. She turned to her brother and said that he was as rude as ever. Ren greeted his sister and said how glad he was to see her, that he was torn to pieces. Finally, she entered the room, and Ren thought that she was as lovely as ever. When the villain entered the room, he put his hand on the knight's shoulder and said that his lady was evil, because from the very beginning he should have done the work better. At this time, Elena was already sitting opposite Ren. She thought that she didn't need to be so surprised, because officially she was Lady Veronica. She did not know whether she was already familiar with his habits. Ren suggested that she look at him a little more affectionately. After all, they were cousins, one way or another. The girl explained that if she had done so, wouldn't he have misunderstood her since they are cousins? The guy got up from his seat and headed towards the heroine. He decided that she had miraculously healed just in time for the banquet. He took her by the chin, but the heroine advised him to remove his hand. Then he leaned even closer to her. He noticed the scar behind her ear and decided that it was good that he had left her a scar in advance. At that moment, the heroine pushed him away and said that he should not cross all boundaries. Ren moved closer to Elena again and said that she didn't need to provoke him. After his departure, she only exhaled heavily and thought about how she had survived this difficult situation. Ren, as he walked back along the corridors, found it all strange no matter how much he thought about it. He was sure that she must have been poisoned. After a while, all the guests had already arrived at the reception. The heroine thought that the Duke would be content with himself as much as he could, for one day she would drag him down. Leah entered her room and called her, as the celebration was supposed to start soon. The heroine said that she was a little nervous, and the woman explained that she should trust her completely. Elena's dress looked simply gorgeous. It was red and well-crafted. All the people downstairs in the hall were simply envious of her dress and admired her beauty. The girl went downstairs with Leah and greeted her father with a joyful voice and a happy expression on her face. He led her along and introduced her to the guests, saying that it was simply a wonderful day since he could spend it next to his daughter. He asked her not to walk outside for too long as her body still hadn't recovered, and she easily agreed with him. Elena thought that her time had come to make her debut, but first she needed to get rid of Leah Brigg. As the girl walked, another girl bowed to her, greeting the lady. Elena approached the girl and listened attentively to her embarrassed conversation. However, Leah intervened in this conversation and did not allow him to continue, since it was about some past events that Elena did not know about. At this time, Abella appeared in the doorway and shouted to her sister across the hall as she ran up to our heroine. This was the eldest daughter of the Reichardt family, one of the 4 great houses of the empire. Abella's situation improved significantly over the 2 years while Veronica was away. She attracted all the ladies from Veronica's side to her own. After that, she made one last attempt to be elected crown princess and was by her side until the very end. The heroine joyfully greeted the girl. She said that a long time had already passed. Abella admitted that she could not even imagine how much the girl was worried about her. A fair-haired lady explained that there were many people here whom she would like to introduce to our heroine. She also inquired whether her little sister was planning to return to the academy. Leah answered instead of her that Elena is going to return to the academy after all. At that moment, a guy who was insulting everyone was walking through the hall. He was visible from afar. He shouted across the hall that his little sister was socializing so sweetly without him, and his heart was broken. Abella cautiously explained that she'd better go so as not to see him. But at that moment the guy looked at Elena and thought she can't be so cold towards him. And the heroine realized at that moment that it seems she had fallen into his tenacious clutches.